Brandan Fraser almost gave up on love after his messy divorce. The actor's ex-wife betrayed his trust and tried to ruin his reputation. It took Brandan over a decade to open his heart again, but his new lady was totally worth the wait. So how did the actor go from a happy husband to hiding from love? And why did his divorce become so ugly? Brandan and his wife Afton Smith split up after a decade of marriage. At first, their breakup seemed amicable. The actors were determined to co-parent their 3 kids. But just a few years later, Afton accused Brandan of being a bad father. She claimed that Fraser refused to support his children financially, even though he had always been the family breadwinner. Of course, these claims put a spotlight on Brandan's personal life, and that was something both spouses used to avoid. The couple met in the early 90s at a barbecue party. Both were promising actors and they had a lot in common. The sparks were immediate. Brandan was head over heels in love. Afton had everything he was looking for.
I knew I could combine my personal and professional ambitions and also have a friend.
5 years later, the couple tied the knot in a private ceremony. At the same time, Fraser's career was skyrocketing. He was really thriving. Afton and Brandan dreamed of being parents and having a big family. And their wish came true. The couple welcomed 3 boys together. Afton stepped back from acting to focus on raising their kids. Their firstborn, Griffin, was diagnosed with autism and needed a lot of attention. And Brandan took on more and more roles to provide for his family. Fraser's status as one of Hollywood's hottest actors made that possible. But it certainly wasn't easy. Acting meant Brandan spent a lot of time away from home. Also, because he insisted on doing his own stunts, Fraser was often injured on set. For 7 years, the actor was in and out of hospitals. He had multiple surgeries, including on his vocal cords, spine, and knee. But it wasn't the worst thing he'd been through. Brandan was hiding a secret that was slowly eating him up. In 2003, Fraser was groped by Philip Berke, a former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press.
I felt ill. I felt like a little kid. I thought I was going to cry.
The actor was too ashamed to admit what had happened to him. You see, he blamed himself. For years, only one person knew what he'd been through: his wife. But she couldn't help him heal from the trauma. Afton had been there for her husband during the good times, yet she abandoned him when he needed her most. Although Brandan's career was still blooming, his physical and mental health suffered. Perhaps that was the reason Afton filed for divorce. That was painful, but it wasn't all. The couple was granted shared custody, but when Afton left, she took their kids with her. Brandan was alone and he was miserable. He thought things couldn't get any worse. Sadly, he was wrong. His health problems stopped Fraser from playing another tough guy in an action movie. He was struggling to find work, yet his medical bills kept coming. Moreover, he also had to pay his ex-wife nearly $1 million a year for child and spousal support. His kids no longer lived with him, but he still had to provide for them. And it was getting harder to do that every year. Brandan asked the courts and his ex for help. He filed a request to reduce his alimony. The actor hadn't worked for a long time and wasn't earning enough to afford the payments. However, Afton didn't believe him. She started to badmouth the actor, claiming that Brandan was a fraud. She even told newspapers that Fraser was lying about his money problems to avoid looking after his own kids. In response, Brandan's fans called his ex a money-hungry witch who lived off his wealth. To defend himself, Brandan had to publicly admit what happened to him. He was forced to relive the worst moments of his life. And when the world found out, everyone turned their backs on the actor. So Fraser withdrew from the spotlight. He became a loner and lost faith in romance. Brandan stopped appearing in movies, and franchises he used to star in, like The Mummy, recast his roles. Fraser took his time to heal and recover. This gave him a chance to focus on what really mattered.
I reached a point where I wanted to get off the merry-go-round and I wanted to stop the music.
Still, Brandan's absence from Hollywood worried his fans. Afton's claims had sparked endless rumors about the actor, and when he was seen, Fraser looked so different. But despite his changed look, Brandan was finally in a good place. He was learning to love himself. It really paid off, because now Fraser is making an epic comeback. And it's not just because of his recent career revival as a dramatic actor. You see, Fraser has also finally found his real-life leading lady. For the first time since his divorce, Brandan is in a relationship. He's taking another chance on love. Fraser gave the world a glimpse of his new partner, Jean Moore, at a film festival. She was the actor's +1 for a screening of his new film, The Whale. It's obvious she's really proud of her boo. Just look at that smile. Even though fans are desperate for all the details, the couple is very private. They have not revealed how they met or how long they've been dating. Naturally, Brandan's superfans have a theory. Jean is a professional makeup artist who specializes in prosthetics. In The Whale, Brandan needed to wear a fat suit and a lot of facial prosthetics. For some netizens, that means that these two met through the film, especially because Brandan had to sit in the makeup chair for ages at a time.
It was 4 hours in the early days. First test was 6. We got down like 2.5.
That's a lot of time for a romance to start developing. Even if this theory is wrong, it doesn't change anything. Brandan's relationship is obviously serious. After all, apart from his ex-wife, Fraser has never taken a date to a red carpet or been spotted with someone. And while Brandan isn't offering any information about his new romance, he looks really happy. Getting back into acting and meeting Jean have been a light at the end of a long tunnel. Fraser has admitted that something good finally came out of something bad. He just had to wait a while to see that.
You wind up, honestly, going, aha, and learning something as a result. There's a lesson in all of this.
And that lesson is that everyone deserves love. No matter what you think you've done to be unlovable, you're wrong. Sometimes, like Brandan, you need to wait for the right person to remind you about that.